Hey everybody, Bob Olson here with Afterlife TV. You can find us at afterlifetv.com. This is where we talk about life after death and answer the meaningful questions around that subject. I want to thank our sponsor, bestpsychicdirectory.com, where there's over 800 psychics and mediums and animal communicators and energy healers right there. You can read public reviews about them, bestpsychicdirectory.com. Now, today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I want to do some shorter episodes. The reason why is it takes me so long to do a 1 hour episode. I recognized that our 1 hour episodes are really about 4 segments. They're made up of 4 different segments. And I thought, instead of taking as much time as it takes to create 4 segments within a 1 hour show, what if I separated those 4 segments and sent them out separately so that they would be bite size, I guess. And it would be easier for you to listen because it wouldn't take as long. And it just might be better for you because you'll get more episodes more often and just in shorter doses. So we're going to try it. This does not mean I'm not going to do an occasional longer episode. I will. And if I ever do an interview, which I won't be doing that many of, but I like to do them every so often, we'll have those as well. And those will be longer. Let's give this a try and let me know what you think. So how is this going to look? For the most part, most of these episodes are going to be either your stories that you will tell us through afterlifetv.com/story, or you're going to ask your questions at afterlifetv.com/question. And we will play either the story or the question, and then I will comment on those audios that you leave us after that. And then that will be it. And then we'll go on to, whenever the next one is. Hopefully we can do these a lot. Let's try it, see how it goes. Tell me what you think, and we'll take it from there. All right, so today's episode is extra special because the story that was left is from a woman named Ornella. And Ornella is really a huge supporter of Afterlife TV. And I really appreciate her more than she'll ever know. But not just because she supports the work that I do, but also because she is one of the most positive people I have ever met. Honestly, she sends us a lot of tweets. She comments on a lot of the Facebook posts that we do. But I don't think I've ever heard her say a negative word. She is always uplifting. She is always enthusiastic and just filled with love. And I recognize this whether she's talking to me or talking to other people. If you go to her Twitter page, for instance, you can see that she's doing the same thing with lots of other people. And she is spreading a lot of love around the world. Anyway, she's got a great story as well. And so why don't we hear from Ornella, and then I'll just make a few comments after. And then that'll be it for today.
Hi, Bob. It's Ornella calling. I just wanted to share a story. First, I want to say I'm so excited about your show, and I'm so glad that we all have this opportunity to be on here and listen to all your great stuff. Now, this story took place a long time ago. It's going to be 14 years this Easter, and I thought it was appropriate to share it right now. 14 years ago, right after September 11th, my husband and I was home on maternity leave, and my husband was with me as well. And we started watching John Edward with Crossing Over. And he's a psychic medium who I've been following since. Anyhow, he, in his programs and watching him, he shared how we can ask our loved ones for signs and messages, and if we are specific, just watch and see what happens. And so I thought, well, I'd lost my father when I was 9 years old in 1980, and I thought, well, let me try this. So I did, and I'd been speaking to my father on a regular basis daily, to be honest. So I said to him, well, you owe me big time. It's been so many years. I'd had 3 children. I was married. I was just a little girl when he'd passed, and we were very close. And so I said, you owe me big time, joking around with him. And I said, I want you to acknowledge that I had my 3rd child. So that was my message to him. So, fast forward, my daughter at that point was 8 months old or so, and now she was just about to turn a year in March. And she did, and the day went by. And on that weekend, it was Easter, and it was March 31st, 2002. So it had been 22 years since my father had passed, which 22 was a very big and important number for me. Many things happened on that day, and it seemed that I got a lot of my signs through numbers as well. Anyway, that day we brought my mom to church, which wasn't our regular church. And with my little one being little, my husband would either be out in the car with her, or he'd take her out for a walk to entertain her. So we were in there. It was quite crowded. I had two other children. My 7-year-old was jumping up and down, and there was someone going around giving out the bulletins for the mass, and I thought, well, we don't need one because we don't go to this church. But my son was making such a ruckus, and I said, just to appease him, so we took one. And I quickly glanced at it, and something struck me, and I looked again, and it was a man's name, and I said to my mom, do you know this man? I looked over at her. Do you know? He'd passed away recently, and they were having a service said for him. And she says, no, I don't know him. Do you know him? And I said, no. So we left it at that. It was time to go home. Typically when I get home, I put the baby to sleep for a nap and get the other ones all settled. But we do listen to our answer machine as soon as we get home if we've missed any calls. So this call came through, and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, what did he just say? And so we played it half a dozen times. And I said to my husband, what's he saying? And he says, well, I don't know, because I'm Italian. He's not. He said, I think he's speaking Italian. And I said, oh, well, then all of a sudden, I just felt a knowing. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. So I ran to the car, I got the bulletin, came back in the house, and I showed it to my husband. And I said, is he saying this name? And my husband looked at me and he said, yeah. And I said, oh my God. And I start bawling. My tears are just running down my face, but I have a big smile on my face. And my son interjects and he says, Mommy. And I said, yes. And he says, I know why you're crying. And I said, why? And he said, we referred to my father, because I speak of my father to my children ever since they were born, and we refer to him as Nonno. And he says, you think Nonno called you? And I couldn't believe he said that, because he was the one who'd gotten me to get the bulletin to begin with. And I said, no, I don't think he called me, sweetie, but I do think he's sending me a message. So I will translate what he said in Italian. And he said, hello, I am Nazzareno de Palma. I have called you to wish you a happy Easter. I didn't find you home. Be well. Well, the name on the bulletin was Nazzareno de Palma. Nazzareno de Palma means the Nazarene of the palm. And this was Easter, and that's when God, Jesus, is referred to as the Nazarene. I knew this was a big deal. I was so beside myself. I was so excited, but I was still questioning, like many do when they're telling these stories. As much as we know, I think the human part of us are constantly asking questions as to there's no way, it's too good to be true. So as I was putting my daughter, after a lot of excitement, I put my daughter to sleep, and I'm praying to my dad, and I said to him, I know that was you, but can you give me another sign? So we become selfish and greedy, and I still do. I often say I don't really need any signs, but I still do. And then I realized a couple days later, I was bringing my kids, my oldest, to school, and he says, Mommy, what is this? And he'd taken a piece of paper out of my daughter's car seat. And I said, where did you find that? Because my husband and I are very anal about keeping everything pretty organized in the car or anywhere. And he says, I found it in Madeline's car seat. And I said, oh. I said, hang on. When I pull over, I'll look at it. So I look at it. Well, my initial question to my father was to acknowledge my youngest being born. I started bawling when I looked at that, and I said, Matthew, I said, This is the date that Madeline was supposed to be born on, which was Wednesday, April 3rd. So if I didn't have my daughter earlier in March, that was the day I was going to go for an ultrasound to make sure everything was okay and possibly be induced, but I didn't need that appointment. Well, that date was the exact date that Nazareno de Palma's Mass was going to be said at church, in honoring the fact that I found out much later on that he had passed away that March 4th, I think it was. So I still have the bulletin. I know my father came to send me a message and to acknowledge my youngest, and I know he's seen Matthew and Melissa, and my middle daughter is Melissa, just like your wife, Bob. So I always chuckle when I hear you mention her. But they are here. I know they're here. I still will question it, I know. But my intuition is always good to me. I'm not always good to it. I thank you for allowing me to share this story. I have many. I will hopefully share another one with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Okay, while I was listening to Ornella, I had a great surprise of Melissa, my wife, coming down into the studio and joining me to hear her story. And so I just asked Melissa if she wouldn't mind joining me and to comment on it, because it's cool. And she always has some really different perspectives than I do sometimes that surprise me. And I thought, well, this would be fun. I've been trying to get her to do this, and she just happened to be here at the right time. So this is a great treat for all of us. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good.
What'd you think of that? Pretty cool, right?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. I was struck by the intricacies of it and how amazing it was that Ornella was able to identify those things. But that's what can happen when you already are a believer. You know, those kinds of messages can get through to you that might otherwise miss other people.
You know, what's amazing to me about this is that she said this was 14 years ago. And, you know, she just learned about signs, you know, from Spirit, from John Edward, who we love.
Right.
But yet she has this awareness that a lot of people who are new to that sort of thing are not able to catch all the things that she caught. I mean, it's just
Right.
incredible. So it was like, Ornella, you were just made for this sort of thing, like to recognize all these many things that happened in this story. You could have split that story up into 3 parts, and they would have all been great stories in themselves. Put it all together, and it's a little like, I mean, I'm not sure I would have recognized all these things.
Well, I think too, you know, I think Spirit sometimes, you know, they know where you're at. So I think they have a sense of the messages that they can send. And often, you know, people who aren't skeptics, I mean, you might still be like a little skeptical about whether you're interpreting the message or reading into something too much. I think a lot of times people do that.
Yeah.
But I also think that Spirit wants to send a message that is really direct and clear, that sort of allows you to overcome that questioning.
Yeah.
And so they're aware of how simple or complicated they can make it. It may not always get through, but you know, that's, I think, generally how they work.
So they design the message for the person, in other words, make it as easy or
That's my
intricate.
experience.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's amazing. All right, so let's just kind of go through this. I wrote a few notes. Again, she was watching John Edward with Crossing Over all that time ago, right?
Yes. Yes.
Pretty cool. And I remember doing the same thing, watching and going, good, you know, such a great person to be doing that show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he reached so many people with very, very important messages, and he's still doing great work. I want to mention that she left this message, Ornella left this message before Easter. So that's,
right.
You know, she saw that as coming up, and
yes,
I'm just getting to it now. 22 years since her father passed. I love too that she's into numbers, because when we pay attention to things like that as well. I mean, if anybody watched my interview with Dave Kane, you know, It was all about the number 41. It was just, It doesn't matter what the number is.
No.
What matters is that you're aware of that number. She goes to church. I think this is kind of, you know, important little facts here. She goes to a different church, right? So if she had gone to her church, we wouldn't maybe be hearing about this story,
Right.
right?
Except for that it probably would have got through in some shape or form.
Some other way.
Right.
Then we have her, her son who is grabbing the bulletin or whatever.
Yes,
So we don't really
creating a
know.
ruckus.
And to appease him, she says, "Yeah, grab the bulletin.
Right,
Fine.
right.
We don't need it, but we'll grab it." And then for her to just look at this bulletin and notice the man, Nazareno.
Try on your Italian, honey.
Sorry. Nazareno De Palma's name on the bulletin and ask her mother about it. I mean, this brings it to her attention.
It stood out to her. And not for any reason except for probably just the energy that was behind what she was looking at.
And another important message here. So this is the thing. Things stand out to us. We don't know why. You can say spirit does it. It doesn't matter. But we don't know why. But certain things sort of jump off the page, or they catch our attention,
Right.
whatever. And they can be important. They might not be important right away. Like in this case, they're important later.
Right. And I think that's why one of the reasons why we're so quick to write stuff off. I mean, we're constantly on the move.
Yeah.
Right. And so messages come at us and we just discard them. We can just toss them. Our attention's drawn to them, but then we're just in a rush doing something. So we just kind of discard them.
Then she gets home and here's this message. I mean, you can't be.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
crazy.
It's cool.
That was like
It's very cool.
You got tingles down your spine.
I would like my dad to leave me a message on our voicemail.
or somebody else.
No, or
in
whatever.
In his,
Yes.
for him.
Right.
And it's in Italian, and luckily you knew what he was saying, which was really neat. And even the significance of his name was pretty cool. I wouldn't have caught that. I grew up Catholic, but I don't know the way.
Yeah, well,
the way she does.
Isn't that the direct connection? And then her son. I mean, really.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Pointing it out.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I love it when kids are a bit of a attention giver to messages because it happens so often. And so often, I'm sure there's a lot that gets missed.
There's a lot that gets missed. And the kids, I mean, they come from a place of innocence. They're not thinking this through too much. They're
No,
not
it's not
thinking it at all.
intellectual. It's just there.
Yeah, it's just
and
there.
they say it.
Yeah, I love that. All right, and then one of the other things that I really enjoyed, because I could recognize it, is, and then now she gets this amazing message from her father,
Right.
and then she says she wants another one.
Yeah, I know. That's classic.
Right?
That's classic.
Awesome. I would have done the same thing, Ornella. Look, that was really good. Let's give me something else. I don't know why we do that. We just look. We live in this dimension, and you really can't get enough messages. The truth is,
Right. And I think what a lot of times when we do that, it is because we're responding to the feeling that we got when that message came through. It makes us feel euphoric. It makes us feel hopeful. It makes us feel so many good feelings that are a lot of times the antithesis of what we're experiencing in our mundane day,
Sure.
So what we want is more of that feeling.
Yeah. Let's do that again. That felt really
Right.
good. Yeah.
Right.
I love it. All right. And then lastly, the birth date on the paper on the car seat, Madeline's birthday, and the date of Nazareno's mass date,
Well, she asked.
Well, yeah.
Well, she asked the original question, but then she asked for more.
There you go.
She asked for more, and she got more.
And again, someone like me, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Like, I might ask for a message and then completely forget about it.
Yes, exactly. You do that a lot, actually.
But you and Ornella, you ask for something and you keep your awareness out there. You keep your awareness up so that you'll recognize it when it happens. I think it's also just, and she indicated this. It's not like she just found this piece of paper. It was in the car seat.
Right.
In her daughter's car seat
Right.
that she wanted
Right.
to be acknowledged.
Right.
There's so much depth to this story. I think it's worthwhile that we think about these things and recognize how much is in that simple, in some ways, complicated also story that
Absolutely.
Ornella shared with us. So thanks so much, Ornella, for sharing with.
Yeah, thank you, Ornella.
We really enjoyed that. All right, so this is probably going to be longer than most of them because I had to explain what we were going to do with these bite-sized episodes. I hope you will let us know. Look, email or Facebook, Twitter, afterlifetv.com. We have comments right there as well. Let us know. What do you think about the bite size? They will even be a little shorter than this, most of them. And it's fun for me to be able to get more episodes out there. So I hope you like it. I hope you also like us on Facebook. Here's the thing. I'm going to be changing from the Facebook name being Afterlife TV to being Bob Olson Author. Bob Olson is taken, even though I don't think the guy's using it, but Bob Olson Author. And the reason is I'm coming out with a new book, and there is an afterlife theme to it. It's not that it's that big a stretch. But the reality is the new book is about what I learned about life by investigating the afterlife. So that's going to be coming out in May. But I just decided if I'm going to keep coming out with new books, I wanted the Facebook page, I wanted to be able to tell you about all these things and not have it just focused on the afterlife. And I also hope that you'll join our newsletter, because it's more likely that you're going to find out about us through our emails that we send out, because Facebook isn't always reliable in that way. A lot of people, I put out the last episode in both December and January, and a lot of people were still asking me, when are you going to come out with a new episode? And it was like, I just came out with one, but they didn't find out about it on Facebook. So if you can maybe join our newsletter as well, at least you get another shot at finding out every time a new episode comes out. We're hoping there'll be more of them because they're going to be shorter. Anyways, thanks.
There will be.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Melissa will kick my butt. Thanks so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this. And I enjoyed talking with you again.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Bye now.